want to do a quick update today on, the Fluence lights that I had bought. Some of the aroids that I did in a previous video, they've gotten a lot bigger, and I think it's time to kind of show you guys how they're doing. And, generally just do a quick update primarily of this grow room, where those, the lights are, and you can see the changes. I have a lot of stuff in bloom right now. The Vanda's in bloom. That's Renanthera Bella. And then over here is my Phragmipedium kovachii. So final assessment, personal assessment, this isn't like based on anything other than how I feel after using the Fluence lights after a year. They're pretty rad. They were expensive for sure, but they put out about twice as much light as my other LEDs, which means for a per cost per light, it ends up working out pretty well, because otherwise I would have had to have run 2 or 3 lights up here in order to be able to bloom the Vanda, and same with the Renanthera. Those are like super highlight plants, and so like takeaway from that, I'm super happy with the lights. The spectrum quality, like the quality of light, seems really good. I don't have chlorosis or bleaching issues, whereas with some of the other lights that I use, there's often too much blue spectrum, and that can cause like mottling in the leaves. This used to have a spotlight on it, so you can kind of see in the leaf area there's some mottling going on. So I'm like super happy with those lights. I don't know what else I can tell you other than, this plant now is blooming for the 4th time this year. I couldn't get that thing to bloom before at a south window. Now my windows have like, I think a bit of a protective coating, so it's not like it's full sun at a south window. But for me to like, upon reflection, I'm like, this plant has actually become like a little boring because it's always in bloom. But then I'm like, no, it's like so good. But that's because of the lights. I still haven't been able to bloom the Phragmipedium Andine Tears. That's supposed to be like a kovachii cross by the Phragmipedium Humboldtii, I think it is, or warocqueanum. I don't remember what it is. But that it's gotten a lot bigger. Hasn't bloomed yet. So that's kind of the last like holdout for me. That was the reason I bought the lights, is because I want this frickin' plant to flower, because it's supposed to have huge flowers. Like they're supposed to be like a foot tall, and then like if you stretch them out, probably like 2 feet wide at least. And then they have that really wide, chunky kovachii structure. Beyond that, the Fluence light on all of the aroids has done really well. Some of them are kind of placed off to the side, and then some of them are directly under the light. My Anthurium decipiens is now pushing out a leaf taller than me. This plant is frickin' ginormous. And I may have made a stupid choice in buying this thing for a condo, because I don't know if you've seen photos of them online, they get frickin' gigantic. The leaves get to be like 6 feet long on their own, and the petioles can probably be, I don't know, 10, 12 feet tall, maybe-ish. So at the time when I got it, I didn't think that it was going to grow so fast. Historically with plants, I've found that they grow pretty slow in my conditions, but obviously with the LEDs and the window light, this plant is in like a premium spot, gets direct sunlight in the mornings, and then it gets the LEDs during the day. And clearly it's happy, which is fantastic and cool. But I think that I need to buy a house so that has like a 2-story like split where there's no like roof, so that I can actually like keep it indoors, or maybe I'll have to donate it at some point in the future or something. Let me show you the Phragmipedium kovachii. It's flowered again this year, and I actually have 4 flowers, which 2 of them, it's at the end of their cycle, so they look like junk. They're self-pollinated, so I will have seed pods on those. But to get 4 flowers in a single like season is, I have been told, very rare. I don't know that I attribute that to my care specifically, probably just those lights. When we talk about like how lights work and you're packing in energy into the plant so that it can produce biomass, if that light quality is really good and it's not stressing the plants out, then they perform better. You can see Phragmipedium kovachii. I also put a photo on that doesn't have the like dead flowers, but you can see that it's got the seed pod kind of on the go. This spike had bloomed later, and there's actually 2 flowers on 1 stem, which is interesting. I don't know that they look a little crowded in there, right? I don't know if I would have thought that would be a normal thing to happen, but it's cool. I'm happy with it. I'm looking forward to trying those seeds again. Last year when I tried to flask the Phragmipedium kovachii seeds, I really struggled with those. It turns out that the seedlings are not, like, they're not temperature tolerant. The adults are a lot more temperature tolerant. I don't think that my place is warm by any stretch. But with my indoor temps being over like 24 degrees Celsius, even at like 25, I ended up, the seeds germinated and they grew in protocorm stage, and then like mass die off. Like so many of them died off, almost all of them. And I started like messaging people who I knew had success with them, and you know, I got a lot of different answers. Some people said more calcium carbonate or like calcium content. And I think in the end, the reason the kovachii didn't grow well in flask is because when temperatures are higher, water's ability to like hold calcium carbonate, I believe, decreases, which is why when you boil water, if you have alkaline water, you get that calcium precipitate. I don't entirely understand the like chemistry of it, but I think as they're developing, there's probably like a shift or reliance on certain minerals at certain levels. And maybe that's what influenced the temperature problem. I don't know, we'll see. That's my pot that has Phalaenopsis, bastianii, and mariae. And that thing is like got so many spikes. And the cool thing about bastianii is that it'll actually re-spike from the same spike nodes. So you can get double and maybe even triple spikes from the existing ones, and then the spikes continue to branch and like proliferate like year over year. So this thing has, I think it counted, it's like 12 spikes on it now. And then those spikes continue to hold year after year, which is insanely cool. I'm looking forward to this year's flowering because I think it's going to be great. My Phalaenopsis Mok Choi Yew, which is a hybrid with Gigantea, is the largest Phalaenopsis I have right now. I'll bring a photo up so you can see it. This thing is freaking gigantic. So the problem with having big phals is that they need quite a bit of light and they take up a lot of room. And so now this one's kind of like getting jammed to the side, and I feel a little bad about that, but it's cool nonetheless, right? So in general, the Phragmipediums have done well. They're quite bushy. This is Phragmipedium Pink Panther, and it's been throwing out spikes and flowers pretty much for the last 2 months, I think now, maybe 3. It's looking really good. On this side, I have my like newer aroids. So I've got a couple Alocasia baginda or dragon scale, and I think this is dragon scale, and then silver dragon. Those are doing really well too. I was super nervous because people said that they need high humidity. And yeah, they're packed in there with the other plants, but they haven't always been so like lush. When I got them, they were a lot smaller. And I think with Alocasia, the key is to keep their roots moist. I see a lot of people online saying that Alocasias need to dry out between waterings, and I don't think that's true. I think that they need moist roots. Maybe it's just that one specific type, I don't know. I haven't grown other ones, so I can't say, but if you're growing the dragon scale or silver dragon, my recommendation is to use a chunky media, kind of like you would use for orchids or other aroids, and then keep it moist and don't let it hard dry. Because if you're letting it hard dry, you may be kind of like triggering in the plant that it could be potentially entering a dry season. And if they do enter a dormancy, whether they're supposed to do that or not, I don't know, but they will. And so what happens if you're keeping them too dry, I think, is that it triggers that. So that's not humidity related, that's like hydration related. And from what I've seen so far, as long as you keep them moist and watered on a consistent cycle so the roots aren't drying out, they do really well. So this is the Macodes petola that we repotted. It's getting, big. It was big then too. It's still pretty pale, so I've moved it further away from the light in an attempt to fix some of those things, and it seems to be doing a little better. One thing that in my video when we did the repotting, I commented on that I thought maybe they do kind of like a seasonal growth, and I'm starting to lean on that more. You get like a main growth that flowers and then dies back, and when it dies back, the leaves kind of bleach out, and then from that you get ramifications for new growths in these areas. And so I think what happens is the main plant stem grows and then it dies back, and these leaves kind of fade out so that the new growths get light as well. It's a theory, I don't know. But I have noticed that consistently these plants kind of follow like a really like beautiful foliage look, and then they kind of hit a point where they look a little less beautiful, and then what follows after that is, you know, a nice looking plant. One thing with the Macodes petola is when we repotted, I was watching that video and I think I put too much sphagnum moss in the main like media mix that I put at the bottom of the pot. And it's fine. What that means is if there's too much sphagnum moss, that there's a higher chance that it's going to break down faster, which means I'm going to need to repot sooner. The reason that I know that that's happening, or that that's an issue, in this pot, it's taking like 2 weeks for it to dry out. And if you've watched some of my other repotting videos or read some of my articles about, you know, soil composition, my preferred goal is to have the pots, whatever plant it is, have the pots approaching dryness by about 5 to 7 days, so that on the weekend I'm able to water every week. And then, you know, I add more or less water retentive materials or drainage materials to achieve that. And the fact that this is taking 2 weeks to dry, I don't like that, because it means that, you know, probably there's less airflow down in the middle section where the roots are, and that's not good. So I will probably be repotting that again in this spring or summer, so that I don't have any chance of root rot. The sphagnum moss will work fine for now, but I think that there's just too much in there, which means in, you know, 6 to 8 months that'll start breaking down and causing potential for root rot issues. I don't think I've ever showed this one. This is a Dieffenbachia Reflector. I don't typically like Dieffenbachia for various reasons, but this plant kind of has like jewel orchid type leaves. They're kind of velvety. They have like a crystalline sparkle in the right light. They're really like beautiful. And I kind of struggled with this plant when I first got it. And I ended up finding out it's because it had red mites. It was getting like a bunch of damage, and I took a microscope and looked up really close, and I could see the little tiny red specklings in here, which is really hard to see with the naked eye. So if you have a plant that's getting kind of like spots and kind of like a rusted look like this, look really, really closely at the leaves and see if you see any like bright orange specks. Those are typically red mite eggs. The cool thing about this one is that this year it's clearly doing well enough that it's gonna, you know, flower for me, which I wouldn't have thought that a plant so small would flower, especially for my indoor conditions here in Canada, but that's pretty sweet. I'm excited about that. I got a few plants on trade. This is a Philodendron rugosum. It's the pigskin philodendron. And it's really picking up speed right now. I got that from Jesse. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. The plant's doing well, and I really like it. Some of the jewel orchids that I have are in flower. They look really ratty right now. I'm trying to get jewel orchid seeds on those. So I've made a few crosses. It has not been easy, though. A lot of the first attempts in these seed pods are just failing. So I'm going to keep trying, but I don't know if it's incompatibility because of genetics or chromosome count or what. But I'm not getting the fat seed pods that I was hoping for. If you've been following along on my channel for a while, you've seen some of my like flasking work, and you know, I've talked about some of the hybrids I'm making. This year I managed to flower my first Phragmipedium cross, and we registered that under Brian's grandfather's name, Phragmipedium Memoriae Frank Lowe. And what's really cool about that is that it's a nice way to commemorate his memory, and we had pollinated that plant around the same time that Frank passed away. So, you know, that was like a highlight of the year in terms of like registering and blooming my first flower. I have a lot of other seedlings now that are sizing up. I've deflasked many of them. I'll show you a couple of them right now. This is one of the first Phalaenopsis hybrids I made with you guys. It's Phalaenopsis tying shin flaeagle by Begonia alba. To the right is the tying shin flaeagle by bastianii. And then up here, these are my favorites so far. Not only do they grow fast, but I freaking got this plant has a pink leaf. How cool is that? I am like so jazzed about this one plant, and part of me thinks I need to like, you know, unpot it because it's special and I don't want to like screw it up. But that one is Schilleriana by Yafon Green Jewel. I have another sort of pink leaf there. So, you know, as a breeding exploration, I could, and I may, we'll see how things go with that plant as it grows up. I could take those two pink ones, these two, and breed them together and see if I can get additional or more pink flowers and potentially concentrate that so that I'm pursuing, you know, foliage rather than flowers. But we'll see what the flowers look like. Maybe they'll look like trash. Maybe this plant won't even, you know, breed well, because I had read at one point that the Schilleriana that I have might be triploid, which would explain why I couldn't self-pollinate it, but I don't know. We'll see what these look like. Super excited about them. The leaves look insanely cool. Down to the right here are the Zhengmin Anaconda by Matthew Chen hybrids that I made. Those are gonna be like orange, like I assume, orange flowers with spots, and so I'm like really stoked about that. Okay, so this next plant, it like took me 10 years to track this plant down. I've been looking for it for a long time. I got it from a gal on Instagram called Begonia Flora, and that was through reference from the Northern Plant Room. Thanks, Samya, for that like connection, because that was a plant that I looked for a very long time. Anyways, so this plant, so freaking cool. Not only does it grow really fast, which is surprising, I just grow it in my regular like room conditions, but the leaves are like iridescent, and you need the right type of light at the right angle for it to like look that full iridescent kind of look. But ah, man, it is such a cool plant. The number of colors that you get on this, look at the backside, like freaking so cool. And it like loves my conditions. It's flowering right now. I hope I can get seeds off of it, because I'd like to try and like selectively breed potentially some of the traits within this, but we'll see. Anyways, such a cool plant. Feel like so lucky to have this. I know that I think as part of this, my goal will be to, you know, propagate it and distribute it to some of my friends and plant growers around the area, because it's something that if you have passion for this, then it shouldn't be something that only like a couple people get. Anyways, super cool plant. I'll see if I can get the blue color in there. I don't know if it's picking it up. Ultimately where that color comes in is the angle to the light and the camera. The camera doesn't pick it up as well. Like when I look at it with my eye, some of those blue colors are easier to see, whereas on camera they're, I don't know, probably the spectrum of the camera and how that works. Anyways, super cool plant, freaking huge, grows so fast. Like if we do like the head test, considering I got this thing in September, that's like October, November, December-ish, January. So like 4 months from like a tiny little cutting to what you see here. Grows well with alkaline water or like pH adjusted water that has calcium in it. Seems to respond well to organic fertilizer. So rock dust. I'm using insect frass now. I'm also using shrimp meal, like kind of, you know, I like to experiment, and some of those things I'm experimenting with for specific reasons. Insect frass is organic, so to me it makes sense that like bugs and stuff die in the trees, so why wouldn't you feed that to them? And shrimp meal has chitanosan, or converts to chitanosan, which is supposed to help plants and their immune response, apparently. Like you can go Google it. I did a skim and was like, yeah, it passes the sniff test, I'm gonna give it a shot. I don't think that one thing is the specific reason why this plant is doing well, but I have noticed that when I use it on some of the plants that they seem to cheer up or speed up growth. So it's good. I should show you some of the flowers up close. But first, check it out. I got little seedling, these are Anthurium, they're a Birdnest type. They're not known. I actually got these from Jesse as well. And what's cool, I'm just growing these in my regular like room humidity. I will say, in past videos I've said that my humidity is like really bad. It's like 18 to 45%. Well, that's not entirely true anymore. Because of all of the leaves and foliage, my humidity, ambient humidity this year has slowly crept up on its own, and in the last probably second half of the month, I tend to sit around 45 to 55% now. Whereas in the past, it's been around like 18 to 45%. That's just in this room. Out in the main living room, it still sits around 35% humidity. So I think it's important to be transparent about that. Like I don't want to be like, oh, like what I said last year is now it's different, and so I'm just like some of these things, you know, maybe responding better because my humidity's better. Maybe, I don't know. At any rate, seedling looks cool, right? These are supposed to eventually get huge. I got this from Jesse, like I said, and this, like the plants, as Birdnest ferns get huge, like they get like 6-foot long leaves. So my intention with this is to grow a bunch of them up and then probably trade a couple of them out. But we'll see. Maybe I'll screw it up and kill them all. Another Anthurium that I haven't talked about in a long time because I almost killed it was the Queen Anthurium. I ended up having to sphag and bag her because when I first got this plant like a year ago, I accidentally put it in a south window thinking that they could tolerate higher light, and I nearly cooked the damn thing. It ended up dropping back some of its leaves. Upon recommendation of a couple of videos from the Plants Meow, I've perlite and bagged this, and she's coming back. I need to take it out of the bag at some point, right? And so part of me wants to try and acclimate it to my regular humidity again. Part of me is like, maybe this plant just isn't down with that. But the good news is that there's two stems in here. You can see that, 1, 2. So I may try and do an experiment where I bring it out of the bag, and one where I keep it in, or maybe I'll sell it. I don't know. I want this plant to do well, and it makes me a little sad that it's doing so well in a bag, because I just want it to grow like that in my apartment. Oh, it's still alive. I haven't killed it. It's coming along. I do need to figure out what I'm going to do with that next, because who knows. All right, so flowers or other flowers. Check out this Vanda Pachara Delight. This thing has got the biggest, bluest, most insanely color flowers I've ever seen. And I am so glad that it flowers a lot, because it is like when you walk into the room, it's the first thing you see. It's bright, it's purple, just looks awesome. And then this is the Renanthera bella. I've posted a few photos of this on my Instagram. I've also taken a few pollen from this and tried to make a few hybrids. One of them is with this Vanda. You can see the flowers fading. I don't know that that'll work. And then the other one is with the Phalaenopsis palens. I'm not like super optimistic that that's gonna produce something, but why not try it out, right? There are Renanthera Phalaenopsis hybrids, and they look pretty cool. So we'll give it a shot and see how it goes. All right, so another one I want to show you, in my aroid video, I had talked about my El Choco Red. So this plant has gotten quite large at this point. Size comparison wise, it's like big, right? It actually got so big that yesterday it fell off the stand that I have it on. And unfortunately I had to repot it a little sooner than I wanted to. I left it to go too long as is. Cool ass plant, but it got so big. Like, see if I can turn this without knocking anything over. So big. I think we're on 7 leaves at this point, and they average around 16, 17 inches wide. When I had those red mites last year, this plant also got it, and I treated it with mineral oil, and it got some like speckling and issues with the leaves, along with the light that I had it under being too bright. So it's doing very well. It's very large. I do love that plant. All of my aroids at this point have kind of reached like, well, the size that they're supposed to in a collection. And the Monstera Esqueleto is working on its size increase as well. But this one, I need to do a bit of work with it, I think, to get it to size up more than it is. It needs better light, better position, and I'll be working on that in 2021. One other thing before we go, I'm going to go show you the Melanochrysum next, and then we'll probably cut out for this video. But this is the Phalaenopsis schilleriana that I have. Last year it had flowered with 2 spikes. This year we have 3, 1, 2, and 3. And as you go up, it's branching and getting nice and large. So I'm pretty, like, we're gonna have a lot of flowers this year, I think. get some nice angles of the like planted area. So cool. It's looking very lush and bushy in here. I attribute that to those lights. I think that's a good thing. But I wanted to give you guys an update because it's been a really super long time, and that's been for various reasons. Life's been busy. We had the flood, and then they were working on that for like literally like 2 or 3 months where it was like in and out of here. And then just certain like work got busy, and honestly I got a little demotivated midway through the year, dealing with I dropped out a lot of the groups that I adminned at the time, and now I'm focusing on just enjoying my plants and the hobby, and you know, I want to get back to writing and creating content for me. The channel's grown significantly, so if you've been here from the beginning, thank you. Like, that's awesome. And if you're a new follower, like, even better. I hope that the content cadence that I have works for you. I know that the YouTube model is like, put out a new video every month. I just don't have the time for that, and for me, this is about like putting out there information and knowledge that I have as I learn things, as I experiment with things, and that takes like time and effort. And so my hope is that it's quality over quantity. But I do know that you guys are here for plant content and want to see more of that. So in 2021, I'll do a better job of adhering to like at least like once a month type deal, so that you can see my wonderful fuzzy face a little more often. So let's go check out the Melanochrysum. So the Melanochrysum got pretty big this year. I used to have it in the other bedroom, right? Like when I did that last video about the Fluence lights, the Melanochrysum was in there, and I think it was sitting on like a table, and it was getting big, but it wasn't nearly as big as it is now. So it is officially 6'11", so just shy of 7 feet tall, which is up there. The leaves are doing okay. Some of, like, this was the longest leaf, I think at 29 inches, or this one was, and this one's 25, and this is 24. So I've had some reduction in size, and I think that's just because I haven't been able to give it the same light that I was before. You know, a lot of people on Melanochrysum say that it has to have a pole to climb, and maybe the smaller ones do, but this thing, like, it grew most of this height above the original stake, and I had to go, and I just let it grow, but it was getting like wobbly, so I installed a second stake and secured it. But that concept of like it has to have that to grow, I'm like, not entirely, because some of these larger leaves that are down here were fully free. It had no stake that was growing past the old one. The plant's been doing really well. It's so big now that I can't shower it. Like, I used to take it and put it in the shower. So I'm a little concerned that maybe some of the minerals and stuff are going to start to build up in the pot. And my hope is that in the spring I'll take it outside on our patio and just give it like a good flush out. Because I haven't been able to do that for like at least a few months now. And if you've been following along with some of my like articles and stuff on that flushing because of our alkaline water is super important. The nice thing is Melanochrysum is a calcium hog, so it does do better with more calcium. Most likely because it comes from the Andes in South America, in areas that are high in limestone, and because it's a hemiepiphyte, the roots actually touch the ground. So I think that in order for it to produce really large leaves like this thing is probably just a pig all around. Like, if you've got something like this in a tiny pot and it's just getting smaller and smaller leaves, it's probably because it's either not getting enough light, or it just needs like more nutrients. Because if you want to like produce something this big, that needs to come from something. It needs those building blocks, right? And that's not all from light. Yes, light like powers that process, but in order to like physically make plant material, you need those, like, that brick and mortar to like make that wall. So I'm kind of going on a tangent right now. It's very big, taller than me. It's weird to have plants that are taller than me. It's been a good year for that, because some of those have done really well. Especially like if you look here, this is my soursop. It is propped up right now. Sorry for the bad lighting, but it's doing good. Everything's doing really well. One other thing before I kick you out of here, cool new plant that flowered for me this year. This is Paphiopedilum tigrinum. The light is so bad, so I'm sorry. I'll put a photo up that was under better light. Super cool like super neat, cool growing species that comes from China and Burma in the area along that section of Asia. Apparently it's quite hard to grow because it's a cool growing species and it can decline in captivity. So my intention is not to kill it. We'll see how things go. I have self-pollinated it at this point, so hopefully I can try and grow some of those from seeds. One other thing, check it out, 30% humidity. I'm not bragging about that. It's just something that people are like, oh, well, I've actually had people tell me that they think that I have a secondary like greenhouse or something, which like, sweet. I wish I did because my plants would look better than they do now. Let me show you a couple more seedlings and then I'll cut you out. So this is Phragmipedium mariae Frank-Lowe. This is one of those hybrids that I had originally like planted and sowed with you guys. This was seed to flower in 1.5 years. You know, people say that orchids are slow growing, and generally they are. Phragmipediums, under the right conditions, clearly grow fairly fast. These are the rest of my seedlings at this point. More Phragmipediums. I have a second cross that I need to register that just bloomed. Freaking cute as all get out. I can't tell you the cross name until I register it because that's my only like one up at this point. But I will be registering that soon. Some philodendron cuttings I got from a buddy on a swap. And then the rest are just like Phalaenopsis. Oh, these are the palins that we did in the deflasking video on my last deflasking. They're doing okay, not growing super fast, but they're coming along. My Mexipediums are doing much better than they were. That pH down issue that I had last year really did a number on certain species. And then I still have, you know, a few things in flask and coming along. So I'm stoked about that. These are all that are left of my Phragmipedium kovachii seedlings. And you can see what I mean about the bleached out white protocorms. There's a couple other flasks where they're just, it's all dead. Like all of them are those bleached out white things. And I didn't change anything. What changed was the temperature in our condo came down as winter kind of came in. And once the temperatures went below about 24 degrees Celsius or so, they seemed to start responding. I still don't know entirely though. I'll need to kind of test that out again a second time and see if I can get better success. But we'll see. There's a lot of seeds still alive in here, so that's good. So I hope you guys are doing well. I know it's been a crazy year. I'm glad that it's over. From Clyde and I. Have a wonderful new year, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!